One, two, three, there it is. That's the one. Well, good morning, my friends. Good morning to you, Doug. I hope you're well. Well, I hope you're well, too. Good morning. Still rather anemic. Welcome back. How many fish did you catch? Lots. So, I am very glad that you are here, but I'm also glad that we are here. I am feeling lately very grateful for our community. Lots of people with very big hearts, with a very big love for the community, with very big love for one another. So just one indicator. I've been putting up this thing, Housekeeping. I'll put it up again this week. Lots of little things around the community that need to be doing. And you have been taking care of our community. So as you were driving up, you might have seen, did you see the new sign on the monument out there? No, you did not see it. Well, on your way out, make sure you take a look. That would be Jen who did that. We have a new keyless door so that when groups come here in the middle of the week, they don't have to call me in the middle of the night and say, hey, how do we get a key? And I think you're screwed because I'm not driving down there. So now we've got keyless entry. That's Drew. We've got shelving in a new storage room that we've created. Shelby posted to help clean out the downstairs because she'd created a bunch of new space down there and it was kind of left a big mess. We had those people show up. We've got hospitality helpers. We've got people checking in on one another. So thank you and well done. Now, we say this all the time. We cannot be community if we don't make community. You can't do this from the top down. It's not the way that community works. If we don't look out for one another, we cannot be the community that we aspire to be. So, I think when the newcomers come to the orientation, by the way, it's coming up either next week or the week after, it's coming up soon. We tell them all about our core values. We tell the newcomers all about our aspirations, what we want to be, how we got to where we are, why we value this and why we value that. In the end, we say, but yeah, we can't be any of that if you don't make it so. So welcome, newcomer. And now the community is also in your hands. And now, if we suck, it's your own damn fault. So... We do have people who organize some of the things for us, serve roles for us. We have people whose job it is to protect our core values. But really what they're doing is just getting us organized enough so that we can all take a place, find a role, do a thing. What struck me these last few weeks is just how many of us are doing exactly that, owning our community. So thank you. Welcome to Common Thread, especially welcome if you're a newcomer here in the room or if you're a newcomer online. We'd like to send you a low-pressure welcome. We'd like to send you an email that we wrote, and you can read stuff about the community. After you've read it, down at the bottom there'll be a link you can click if you want to get to know some folks in the community. If you'd like to do that, just click on the funny box, or else you can thumb type commonthreadchurch.org/newcomer. Also, here's our weekly reminder to let the community stand with us when we have rough days. You ever had a rough day? Never? Not one time in your whole life. You never had a rough day? Yeah, you did. All right. So here's the thing. When you have a rough day, it's good to have people with you. See, that's why we put this slide up every week, to remind people it's better to have people with us when we're having our rough days. So maybe tell somebody today, or maybe use the QR code. If you use the QR code, it'll go to Morgan right over there. Wave your hand, Morgan. She knows lots of people who have all said, yeah, I'd like to stand with folks. She'll get you connected. All of that can happen if you do that. So, all right, let's say it together as we do each week. If you are here, you belong. If you are here, you belong. And we are, every one of us, carriers of the inner light. And we are, every one of us, carriers of divine breath. Okay, before Joe comes up for music, we are learning to make community by making music. Now, I've been talking to Joe. I've got a pretty good idea of where we're heading. And I know what we're doing now and how that's getting ready for what we're going to do then. Right now, there's a lot of focus on learning these songs because these songs teach us something about how to make music together. So we are learning songs, that's true, but we're also learning foundational skills in music making. So we're getting a repertoire of songs, but we're also getting a repertoire of skills. So today you're going to hear a song that's in Latin. What is that about? Two things. The song, like I said, is going to teach us some important skills, but the Latin is Kyrie eleison. Now, if you like classical choral music, odds are you have heard those words in some arrangement or another. What they mean is, Lord have mercy. That's what they mean. You've probably heard somebody say that as well. Lord have mercy. Well, I'm going to do a lesson on that song in a couple of weeks because I want to dig out the origins of the phrase, but I also want to outline a process that we've followed for several years. When some religious thing has lost its meaning, we strip it down to its core until we can find the initial goodness, and then we take that goodness and we begin to rebuild on it so that we can find meaning once again. I think we can do that with Lord have mercy. But for now, let's learn the song, and let's learn the skills for making community by making music. All right, Joe, come on up.
If you are second grade, if you are second grade or younger, and that's so much better. If you are second grade or younger on this mat, if you are third grade or older, you're on this mat.
Come on, we need third grade.
We need third and up. Where are my people? All right, excellent. You can have a seat. Fantastic. All right, so you guys, it's our morning meditation. All right.
Those are my favorites.
Those are pretty sweet. And if we had section leaders, I would love for them to be available and present. That.
Hey, John, you just got recruited as a section leader.
All right. Somebody wanders up.
Great.
All right. Now. Oh, but wait, there's more. It's growing. The huddled masses yearning to play without. Did I miss? We're going to be. Yeah, that way, if one hand gets tired, you can switch. All right. Perfect. Just like that. Excellent. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got it. All right. The band is ready. Tone chimes are ready. Thank you, sir. Am I doing something, Gene? I feel like my mic is feeding back. Hold on. Okay. Don't know how that happened. There we go. All right. There's just not an off switch apparently. If I'm holding, I'm playing. Okay. So, could we freeze our maracas? All right. Nobody breathe. Here we go. 1, 2. Guys ready? 1, 2. Here we go. All together. 1, 2, 3. Spirit. In me, the sun. Give of your goodness, light up the darkness, Spirit of light and love. Spirit, Spirit in me. One more time, here we go. Spirit in me. Live out in the open, shine from my life like the sun. Give of your goodness, light up the darkness, Spirit of light and love. Spirit, Spirit in me. Going on. Give through me. Speak through me. Move through me. Love through me. Oh, Spirit. In me. Spirit, Spirit in me. Yeah. Finish. Very nice.
You guys especially, you were good. I mean, you were good, I could tell.
All right. All right. We started this song last week. They will know we are Christians by our love. Maracas, you guys, that last song was a warm-up for this song. You got that same pattern. Yep, exactly. And jingle taps, you got the same pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly. Okay. Xylophones. Oh, right. All right, xylophones, we worked on a little bit of stuff. You guys are going to do the parts we worked on. Don't worry about the parts that we didn't work on. We'll get to that another day. Tone chimes. I have heard there is some interest. Oh, maracas, would you do me a big favor? Can you put those on the ground for just a minute? I promise you're not done. Thank you. So I'm going to ask my xylophone playing friends who just did a fantastic job on the tone chimes. Rumor has it we have some, I was going to say big kids. Might be more correct to say old kids. I can say that because I'm an old kid. That we might be able to play some tone chimes out here. So I'm going to ask you guys to put down your mouths for a minute, and we need to distribute. Now, we don't need to distribute the B flat, but we need to distribute, I believe, all the other tone chimes to any willing player. So you guys, your mission, not the black, yes, that F sharp.
Come on, adults, hands up.
All right, any willing player. No pressure.
They're really fun. Are we allowed to play them?
Are you allowed to play them? Yeah. Why not?
Bear, I'll take yours. Bear.
I got a couple up here actually. Grab the purple. Grab a purple and a green. How about that? You can be a two-fisted player. All right. Oh, but you read my mind. Let's get to the alphabet blocks. All right. So everybody, I'm going to give you a quick tone chime lesson. When you play, what you want to do is imagine that you're trying to flick some water off the end of it. You're going to flick down, but let it recoil quickly. So down and back. I think we just entered Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Welcome. All right. Now, when we get to those blocks, we have to rehearse.
Okay.
All right. So you can see the See what I mean? So you see the blocks are over words. When we get to that word, that's when you play if you have that letter. So our very first chord, a chord is 3 or more notes that play together. So E, G, and C. We have both letters and colors. You can play by color, you can play by letter. So E, G, and C. Could I hear those 3 when I say the word? I'm going to hear E, G, and C. 1, 2, ready, play. Ah. Can I hear E, G, and B? 1, 2, ready, go. Lovely. Nice minor chord. F sharp, D, B, and A. A nice minor 7. 1, 2, ready, go. And the next line, E, G, B, and C. 1, 2, ready, go. Yep. And then just D and A. 1, 2, ready, go. Good. And then E, G, B. 1, 2, ready, go. Lovely. Now, let's see if we can do it in time. All right. And they'll know we are... Hold on. Oh. There's a little misfire. That's right. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. Let's try and play just like that. 1, 2, 1, here we go. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. Yeah, one more time. 1, here we go. And they'll know we are Christians by our... Play 'em strong. Love, they will know we are Christians by our love. Excellent. Now, if we can go to a slide that has a 2-3 at the bottom of it, closer to the end. So anytime you play, that's what you're playing. There's one little adaptation. One more. Keep going. There it is. You see at the bottom where it says they will know we are Christians 2, 3, and you've got D-A, D-A. So here's how that works. They will know we are Christians by our love. Okay? So the D-A, you get to hit 2 really quick. They will know we are Christians by our love. And then the E-B, the E-G-B comes in. All right? So most of the time it's the first way. A couple of times it's this way. I think you'll be masters by the time we get to the end of the song. All right, I think that is everything. I think we're ready. So, maracas. When you see maracas on the screen, that's your time to shine, right? Jingle taps. When you see jingle taps on the screen, which you'll see on the next screen, that's your time to go. Okay? And tone chimes. When you see the colored blocks, you're up. So there we go. You might want to, when the colored ones are coming, if you can switch a little early, that might help.
I'm on it.
I know. No pressure. It's all on you, man. All right. All right. So no one's playing for the first little bit, but then you're pretty much in. 1, 2, 1, 2, Here we go. We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. And we pray that all unity may one day be restored. And they'll know we are Christians by our love. By our love they will know we are Christians by our love. We will work with each other, we will work with each other, we will work side by side, and we'll guard each one's dignity and save each one's pride. And they'll know we are Christians by our love. By our love they will know we are Christians by our love. By our love. By our love. Here we go. Yeah! And they'll know we are Christians by our love. By our love they will know we are Christians by our love. We will walk with each other, we will walk. Hold on. We got walking? Back. Other way. Back. 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 Ah, hey! Woo! You can't get skills like that just anywhere. 1, 2, here we go. We will walk with each other. Not yet. We will walk in hand. We will walk with each other. We will walk hand in hand. And together we'll spread the news that God is in our land. And they'll know we are Christians by our love. By our love they will know we are Christians by our love. By our love. By our love. And they'll know we are Christians by our love. By our love they will know we are Christians by our love. Here we go. Love is patient, love is kind, never boast, not full of pride. Always hope, always trust, the evidence of Christ in us. Love is patient, love is kind, never boast, not full of pride. Always hope, always trust, the evidence of Christ in us. And they'll know we are Christians by our love. By our love they will know we are Christians by our love. And they'll know we are Christians by our love. By our love they will know we are Christians by our love. A little quieter. Big finish. Woo! All right, well done. Okay. All right, can we hear it for our instrumentalists today? They were awesome. All right, we can, let's do this. Maraca players, would you gently put your maracas in that bin? And we're going to, Doug, I didn't set my timer. How are we for time? Okay, all right. This won't take long. All right. This song is titled Antiphonal Kyrie. Antiphonal, two words, antiphonal, against sound, which doesn't mean you're against music. It means two sounds that are coming at each other from opposite sides. So if you think about, in some situations, they'll have a choir in the front and a choir in the back, and they will both sing, and the sound sort of crosses you from front to back. And so another way to think of it is, in our case, is call and response, where one person sings, and the group simply echoes what the leader sang to them. So I'll sing, kind of the way we learn songs. This is kind of the form of this song, okay? And I know the words get a little tricky, but hang with me and we'll be fine. So, Kyrie eleison is the pronunciation. Kyrie eleison. So I'm just simply going to sing a phrase to you and ask you to sing it back to me. Okay? Like this. Kyrie eleison. Try that, please. Kyrie eleison. Wonderful. Kyrie eleison. Go. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Go. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Lovely. Let's try it now, same way, but now we're sort of going to do it with the beat and with the guitar. So I'll sing, you sing. And the one thing we want to add to it, let's just do it just like that. Me to you. Here we go. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Excellent. Now, let's do that one more time, and this time I'm going to ask, each time you sing, hold the last note for about 3 beats. So don't echo me and just listen to what I'm doing. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Okay, so just hold it, and that way our parts should overlap a little bit. Kind of creates a little harmony. Here we go. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. But just listen to this part. Christe eleison. Christe eleison. Christe eleison. Christe eleison. Now we're back to the beginning. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Listening? Kyrie, Kyrie, Kyrie eleison. Okay. We'll learn the parts we didn't learn this week, we'll learn next time. Thank you so much for singing today. Beautiful.
Let's all stand up and turn to one another, pass the peace of God one to another. Children, you can line up at the wall. You can be ready to go. You, and then you, and then...
When are we going to do the after church. Oh. The last one was really pretty too.
The camera on the far right, does it split your head?
Say it again?
The camera on the far right, is it smack in the middle of your head?
Now.
Perfect.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, and sit down. Please. Thank you. We have a lot to do today. We have 20,000 meals to pack.
40, we're just responsible for 20.
I'm only talking about what we're responsible for. How many of you are packing 20,000 meals in about an hour? Excellent. We need 40 of us because we are working the circle today. I think this effort that we'll do after the service today touches upon all 4 quadrants.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, lots of ways to connect in the community. And as you remember, the ways that we connect in the community are planned in order to help us to work the circle. So as you can see today, after the service, what are you thinking happens on Zoom, as always? Today, after the service, we are packing 20,000 meals. So if there are 40 of you, how many meals are each of you packing? I have no idea. I'm an English major, so I was actually asking. Thank you. And it is, in fact, next week. February is a short month, so it's sneaking up on us. Next weekend is the kickoff Newcomers Pizza Lunch. And again, please do come, even if you are not a newcomer, even if you are a very, very old comer, please do come. This is meant to be a welcome into the community and an orientation into the community, so the more the merrier. We are also actually next week is a busy weekend, having the Enneagram levels of development. So this kind of thing only happens a couple times a year. Some of you, therefore, may not be familiar with it, and therefore, if you want to know more about the Enneagram levels of development, of course, you can go to the app, you can go to the website, but you could also just go to Robin. So take a good long look. There she is. So if this is something you're interested in, feel free to go up to Robin at some point today, perhaps while you're packing 500 meals, and ask her to talk about this with you. There'll be another slide sort of laying it out. We are also having a CTC Brew Crew next weekend, and the middle of the week, I think on Wednesdays, Cindy is running this virtual workshop, so there's still space available if you'd like to do that.
Oh, sorry.
This is the Enneagram levels of development. So it's happening over the course of 3 weekends. If you do not know which of the triads you fall into, I'm sure a 30-second conversation with Robin, she could just size you up on the spot and tell you which one of them to come to, or you're welcome to come to all 3. Our ask, so that you may work the circle together with your community, our ask is to check in once a week. Go to the app, go to the website, or simply read the email. As I've mentioned before, it takes a committee to turn out that email every Thursday, so please read it. And, Doug?
That's the wrong slide.
Yes, that's what I thought.
So here's the thing about Rise Against Hunger. We're doing it because of the food. It goes to organizations that are on the ground, already intimately familiar with their community. That's valuable. But we're also doing it because of what I talked about last week, the potential of this facility, this campus, as we look down the road is that we could rethink how religion is practiced and how resources are used. So a lot of what we're doing today is building relationship with the folks at Ridge Road. A lot of what we're doing is building relationship with the Karen community. By the way, the Karen community, that's an ethnic group within Myanmar. So I didn't know that when we got here. So they're going to be helping with us, and we'll be working on not only putting food in bags, but also getting to know each other and also getting to know the other folks in the community. Might as well do this here. If you would, please get out your, you just stay right there, would you? And just, get out your phone, point it at the thing. So here, let me just look up what's going to be showing up there. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Also, by the way, Jim mentioned to me last week, he said, hey, I went to register, and when I got there to register for this Rise Against Hunger thing, there you were begging for money. And he said, that is not a good look. That is not the way we do things, not how that goes. And here's the thing, we have been moving in, and it has taken all the bandwidth. Here's the thing about the money. We have folks who have given to the community money specifically dedicated that we can't spend on other things for things like community service. And I knew that money was there. So I didn't make a big deal about raising money because I knew we could use that money. However, we are also paying for the food that we're going to be putting in bags. We're just going to use it from that fund. So if you would like to contribute to that fund, you're always welcome to do that. But this first time, I just wanted to focus on seeing if this is an event that we will use. So apologies, Jim was right. That's not how we raise money. Here, get out your phone because you got to look at this. Point to the little QR code. So I want to thank you, like I said before, for clicking boxes. Did you hear all of the, wait, let me go back to this one. Did you hear all of the feedback in the sound system? You heard that, did you? That was like a case study in why we need to do this. Because all of those boxes can contain insulation and covering that we can then begin to get the echo in this room to not do that. And so we need to install that. So there's a box in there when you click it for that. There's a box in there. We got some new shelving units that need to be assembled. There's a box for shelving units in there. There's also a box to click for if you know somebody who could work with our teenagers, there's a box in there if you sing harmony and you'd like to sing harmony. Thank you, those of you who responded already to that. We'll make that announcement for a few more weeks and then get back to you. There's a box for organizing a hike in the woods and a box to join me to work on One Wake's affordable housing campaign. You can find all of those in there. Thank you again for all the responses. Apologies for disordering the slides. Hit it, sister. Yeah, somewhere in here, there's a slide that we're supposed to have up.
We're going to meditate.
Yeah. You can't meditate without the right slide.
No. It was tricky 5,000 years ago, but it's still tricky. Okay. Let us center down, prepare ourselves. We have 4 core contemplative practices that we cycle through at Common Thread. Today, centering prayer. In the Christian tradition, it is called centering prayer. It is also, of course, in other traditions called mindfulness meditation. Good ideas tend to pop up around the world. This will be our focus for a while, maybe through Easter. The other 3 contemplative practices that we cycle through, the welcome prayer, which we focused in January on, examinative consciousness, the loving kindness meditation. So today, centering prayer. So first, as always, find a comfortable place in your body. We are, after all, embodied creatures, and if you're not comfortable as you meditate, your feet, your back, your hips will let you know. So perhaps sit up straight, chin up, feet flat on the ground, perhaps your hands on the tops of your thighs. Start to breathe deeply. A good way to focus one's breath is to breathe slowly in. Hold the breath at the top. Breathe as slowly out. Hold it at the bottom. Now, centering prayer, as we breathe in and out, we are going to focus on a sacred word, in some traditions called a mantra, or a sacred image. So take a moment, see if there is a sacred word or a sacred image that comes to mind. Keep focusing on the breath, and now we will synchronize breath and sacred word or sacred image. We'll breathe in very slowly, feeling the air inflate your lungs, your rib cage expand to accommodate. Hold at the top for a moment, and as you breathe out, just as slowly, feeling the lungs deflate, the rib cage slowly retracting. Focus your mind on that sacred word or that sacred image. So the pattern will be breath in, slowly, holding at the top, and as you breathe out, as you release, bringing the mind to the sacred word or the sacred image. Let us try that for 5 breaths, paying full attention to that pattern. So the beginning of all learning is merely noticing. So during that 5 breath cycle, you likely noticed that your mind wandered. Perhaps as you breathed in, perhaps you struggled to keep your mind focused on your image or your word as you released breath. As you're beginning to notice in this week and in last week, that right there is the practice. Bringing the mind gently back, noticing that that's what minds do. Brains think, hearts beat, lungs inflate. It's to be expected, it's part of the practice. So when your mind wanders, gently notice it. Give it a little tug back to the sacred word or sacred image you've chosen for today. So let's try another 5 slow breaths, this time giving yourself lots of gentle compassion when you tug the mind back to the sacred word or image. Breath in, hold, and focus. Sacred word or image, breath out. We'll do that for 5 slow breaths. So in that round, our goal was to notice the tugging, the returning, notice the nature of the mind. And now in our 3rd round, we'll practice returning our minds to the sacred word and image, perhaps more steadily, perhaps more easily, now that we've noticed that is the practice. So instead of an intermittent chime reminder, as a lot of apps use, I will, every few moments, remind us of the cycle to breathe and return. Breathe in and return. Breathe in and return to your sacred image or your sacred word as you breathe out. Breathe in and return. Breathe in and return. And one last time, breath in, release, and return. Indwelling divine, may we be more alert to our natures, be more compassionate to our nature. May we learn to be more able with practice to listen for the silence that's there always behind the noise. That is our prayer. Amen.
So today is our community meeting, and I wrote a long introduction to our community meeting, connecting the lesson that we just finished with where we go from here. And then I realized when I got to the end, I had way too many words, so I scrapped the whole introduction. You can thank me later. So let's jump right in, and today we're going to talk about our children. And we're going to talk about our children by zooming way out at first. We're going to start by talking about population decline. What does this guy do? Lots of folks are thinking about population decline lately, triggered probably by China announcing that it had reached zero population growth recently. Since the 50s in the developed nations, birth rates have been declining. It takes 2.1 children per woman to maintain zero population growth. And today, 2/3 of the global population lives in a country that is well below 2.1. And the remaining third, because of a lot of factors, are catching up relatively quickly. There are a lot of reasons for this. The shift from agrarian and manufacturing economies. We live in a much more complex society, an innovation economy now. The financial calculus changes around children. We're going to cross 8 billion people on the planet this year. The UN projects that we will top out somewhere around 9.5 billion, and that'll happen sometime around 2050. Then we'll start a time of global decline to match the already decline that's happening in the developed nations. So that's all very interesting. Population decline. It's going to be particularly interesting because we have measured economic health in our nation, many Western nations, by growth rates. It's going to be very difficult to sustain growth rates with fewer people working. We're going to have to fundamentally rethink that. Also, it's interesting because we've organized our social safety nets around young, healthy, working people, funding the safety net until the day when they need it themselves, which again is going to be hard to sustain over time when we have fewer young and healthy working people. Also, it's interesting because life since the 1970s has become more expensive. 4 main costs have outstripped the rise of inflation. So housing, A second automobile, the cost of child care, and the cost of health insurance have all outstripped the pace of inflation, and wages have stayed with the pace of inflation. So consequently, now, with incomes having stayed at the pace of inflation, those four factors having for 60 years been doing that, we now have created the equivalent of a second salary than we had in 1970s, a second average salary. Also, we have broken down stratified gender roles in the last 50 years, which most people think is a good thing. But those four costs, when mom went to work in a two-parent home, her salary got eaten up immediately by those four costs, well, over 50 years. And we haven't figured out yet how to do job sharing, how to do flex time. So traditional gender roles are not changing at the pace of the economic realities. So consequently, when mom went to work, she also still carries the majority of the household responsibilities, the lion's share of homemaking, which has led to a commensurate rise in stress-related disorders for women over these years. And all of these have affected fertility rates, which again is all very interesting in an abstract way, unless you happen to be a male partner in a two-job household, in which case that last one is particularly relevant for you. But the reason we are discussing population decline as a spiritual community in a spiritual community meeting is that unspoken, usually unspoken, attitudes and values tend to accompany all major cultural trends, including this demographic trend. Here's the thing. These trends are going to affect us. They're going to affect our lives in a very shifting society kind of way, but also in a very personal way. Here in our community, they're going to affect us in a core value, how we think the world works kind of way. Demographic currents, as well as all cultural currents, come with ways of thinking and ways of acting. They come with values, propositions. A Pew study came out a few weeks ago exploring the attitudes of American parents, how parents think about their lives and how they think about the lives of their children, what they worry about, what they want for their children, what are the differences between parents who are financially secure and parents who are financially strapped. And the bottom line turns out what I said. Big demographic trends come with values and priorities. Mixed in with fertility rates are beliefs and norms and practices and pressures. In the study, it turns out, financially secure parents worry less about potential dangers that their kids will face. That kind of makes sense. But also, by a pretty wide margin, the parents who are more financially secure find parenting less rewarding. The more economically secure we become, and globally we are becoming more economically secure, the less rewarding we find parenting. Also, the more financially secure parents have different priorities for their children than they had 50 years ago. 88% of the financially secure rate financial success and professional happiness either very or extremely important. Only 20% of the more financially secure parents rate eventual marriage and children as very or extremely important. Distilling out a wide range of questions, the more financially secure we become, the more we tend to prioritize economic factors over family, religion, even politics, believe it or not, but especially children. Move up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and concerns don't go away, they just change. Once we have more resources, our concerns shift to the theme we talked about in the last lesson. What is enough? Are we doing enough? Usually measured in economic terms. Are we working hard enough? Are we ambitious enough? Are we giving enough attention to professional development? And whether the link is causal or correlative with fertility rates, the population decline is traveling hand in hand with a fundamental shift in priorities. Time spent on children is time that is not spent on professional development. It is not spent on the pursuit of whatever enough is. The article cites another study, the longest running parental study that there is. It comes from Gallup. And it tells us that birth rates are down, but the desire for the number of children that we would have is not down. There is a gap between how many children we are having and how many children we want to have. Now again, lots of factors. Also again, causal correlation, very hard to figure out. But I don't think that's our primary concern anyway as a spiritual community. Our concern is the unspoken values that travel with these trends. Very few people would say that children are not important. Of course not. Even the theme that you will hear from time to time, I don't want to bring kids into a world that's this messed up. It turns out that's having a very minimal effect on birth rates. It's not that we have stopped valuing children. It's that we have started valuing other things more than we used to value them. And mostly those other things are economic things. Children are cute and they are cuddly. They have bigger eyes in proportion to their faces, and evolution wired our brains to find that endearing and to evoke a protective instinct. Children are wonderful. We feel their wonderfulness in our bones. But also, children are demanding. When Denise and I were in the thick of raising kids, we were kind of broke, and so the rare occasion when we could afford to go out to eat, we did not want to be near anybody who had kids. Because stretched as thin as we were, one more crying baby, we might just snap. So we will feel sympathy for a baby whose ears can't pop when the airplane is going up, but we also think, oh my God, why is that child in my row? A child melts down in a grocery store, and now if it's our own child, we understand. If our own child has done that recently, we have a little bit of sympathy, but if we don't, there's an eye roll, and oh God, be a better parent, would you please? Children cost money, children take time, children cost us focus, they cost us bandwidth, and children are not interested in the interesting adult things that adults are interested in. So children are already a challenge. And then we add on top of that already challenge the values that are accompanying this shift in fertility decline. And it's kind of like we're putting the thumb on an already teetering scale. What these studies do is highlight for us and paint a picture of unspoken cultural values. We want children, we value children, but we want other stuff, mostly economic stuff, more than we used to. Now, it's a shift that may be related to this fertility decline, which again is all very interesting, but we are not a think tank. We are a church. So what does this have to do with us? Kids are demanding. That's what it has to do with us. What will we do about the demanding part of kids? With the growing cultural instincts around us, we can't help but absorb them. And the question will come up, that demanding part of kids, will we make a decision on the basis of the deeper wisdom, the ancient wisdom? Will we make our decision on the basis of cultural trends? Julie was telling me a story last week. It was one of the early weeks when Joe was doing music, and he went a little long. He was still figuring out how much can happen in the time allotted, so he spent extra time with the kids and with the instruments, and Julie said, I was getting kind of bored. It was too long. It was too detailed. We got it. We sing this. We play that. Let's move on. And then she said, I saw Molly's face. I remember. We got a picture of Molly's face. Molly's about that tall. She was playing the drums, and she was playing them with all of her heart, and she was riveted in what she was learning. You could see her watching Joe. She said, Julie said, I also saw Maria's face as Maria was sitting on the floor with the kids, finding joy in helping them find the rhythm. And she said, there's more going on than I was seeing. There's beauty happening here. There's goodness happening here. I have a similar story. Rivers gets dropped off on Mondays. I take care of him and Miles. And I was making breakfast before I took the boys to school, and Rivers said to me, hey, Grandpa, I'm in the band at church. He plays the cowbells. He said, I'm in the band at church, and we're pretty good. And I thought, there's a lot more going on than I was seeing. We are inviting our children into community. We are finding ways to include children in community, but more to the point, we are finding ways to not exclude them, to not send them off to their segregated place where their hassle factor doesn't bear on us. Really what we're doing is we're following Jesus. Even before the decline in birth rates, even before the correlative or causal value shift, kids were demanding and they distracted adults from doing what adults want to do. And some people brought their kids to Jesus for the blessing. The disciples thought the whole thing was disrupting from the important stuff and tried to shut the whole process down, get the kids back to their classes where they belong. And Jesus said, yeah, don't do that. This kingdom of God thing that I've been talking about, this is it right here. Their emerging lives, our love for them, what happens to us when we become carers for them. This isn't hassle, this is the point. Religion's job, you hear me say all the time, is to practice discernment. And because we practice discernment to see our own blind spots and to see our culture's blind spots, and then work together to find ways out of our blindness. That's our job as a spiritual community, to be countercultural, to go against the tide. That's why the ancients called us a peculiar people. The thing is, kids are demanding. Kids slow you down. Kids suck up focus. And they suck up attention. They keep us from getting stuff done that we really want to get done. Kids get in the way of me time. New parents, I promise you, you will have to say that along the way. Where did my me time go? Kids are demanding. Here's the thing, I like getting stuff done, I do. Now I'm going to admit this out loud to you, but before I admit this thing out loud to you, I want you to know, I know it's bad. I want you to know that this is not a good thing. You don't have to tell me. When I first heard Facebook's motto, move fast and break stuff, I loved it. I thought, that's the way I like living. That is so much fun. But fortunately for me, I have Robin. Robin's been in my life for a lot of years. And in the early years when I was more disposed to move fast and break stuff, she would pull me aside quite a few times, actually, and she would tell me a Bible story. In this Bible story, the people of Israel were making their way from Egypt through the wilderness on their way to Canaan, and it took a long, long time because not only were they getting out of slavery, but they were also getting the slavery excised out of them. And the story she would tell, remind me of, I knew the story, but she would always attach a motto to it. And she would say, Doug, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go long, go together. And you might want to consider, she would say to me, moving at the pace of the children. Because if you want to go long, you go together. Kids slow you down. They really do. They demand time and bandwidth and focus. But if you want to go long, bring them along with. This year, that's a focus for our community. We're going to figure out how we're going to be doing that in very practical ways. Let me just tell you up front, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but it's going to be messy. We started doing this thing with the kids in the morning, and you noticed today it wasn't as messy, but it's still a little messy. It'll be less messy when I figure out how to work the new screen. But even when we master it, even when we get it totally right, it's just going to be messier if we include children. But my hope is that we are able to give to all of our children what my grandson has started feeling. I'm in the band at church and we're pretty good. I belong here. I've got something to give. I am valued here. I belong here. 4 very practical ways we're going to be doing that in this coming year. First, we're going to support our children and our teen team. Step 1 for that has already happened. The board approved a budget, several stipends to help Shelby have people who can be consistent over time to show up week after week after week for birth through 5th grade. Right now, Shelby and Julie are working together on that. Thank you, all of those who sent referrals. They are following through on all of those. We're trying to find people who will love our children and love them well and be steady and keep that going. I spoke to John and Lori about using monies from Sarah's memorial fund to hire a program director for our teenagers, and they thought that was a great idea. That's next on our to-do list as we get through trying to consolidate what's happening with our birth through 5th grade. Mariah has been loving our teens very, very well. She's been doing it before Sarah died and just taken on a double load since Sarah died, but her life is over the top busy. So we're going to prioritize our children and our teenagers in our budget. The second thing we're going to do next week, Shelby is going to host downstairs an open house for folks who love kids, because we are going to organize our volunteer roles in a way that's all very here, now, small, doable. Churches are notorious for burning people out working with their kids. And usually that's because we don't put a high priority of the whole community on being a community that owns the children, so a few of us show up. And when we show up, oh my God, who's going to show up next week? All right, I'll show up again. We've got to work against that as a trend because we've seen that before. We don't want that to happen. Burnout is a cardinal sin in our community. So those who love kids, Shelby's going to give a tour next week after church, describe what voluntary looks like, how we might imagine doing that. Third, we're going to create space, or in number 1C, we are creating spaces where all of us can have a role to support our children and our children's teams. Ways in which we can all help at events, being part of the games that we play, bringing the snacks to eat during the time, supporting those who work with the teams, being champions of those who are caring for our children. So that's the first thing we'll be doing. In many ways, we'll be supporting our children and our teenagers' teams. The second thing we'll do, I've already mentioned this one, make more of the times that we have together multi-generational. The most obvious way that you have seen since the beginning of the year is what we're doing together with music, integrating our children into the music. But here's something that you should know. We did not initially start that in order to integrate our children. We started that to get you to sing, because you won't sing, but if we've got kids in the room, you will sing. That's not just us. That's an American dynamic that has happened. We have become a post-music producing society. Part of that is because we have become avid music consumers. We listen to music a lot more than we ever did, and so then when we hear our own voices coming out of our mouths, they don't sound like the music that we consume. So we just kind of gently shut it down, sing quieter, or stop singing. Consequently, more and more Americans never experience the magic of how music makes community. When 50 voices join together, our unpolished voices completely stop mattering. We add to something that with one another that makes us able to create music together and beauty together. So we're going to learn to sing, but we're going to do it with adults and with kids and with teenagers, multi-generationally, beauty-creating community. Now, I've heard where Joe wants to take us. You just wait. A year from now, we're about to start introducing harmony. Part of the issue with the song that we like, by the way, I really like that Kyrie song, but part of the issue with Kyrie is without you knowing you're learning it, you're actually learning how to sing harmony. And we're going to end up learning how we can join with a lot of musical history where people learn to sing harmony together. But we're exploring more spaces than just the music space to be together intergenerationally in a fun way. Shelby is right now brainstorming ways that we can have events and games that include teenagers and parents and grandparents and families and single folks, and all together in a space getting to know one another. Since the pandemic, I don't know which kids belong to which people like I always used to know. That's kind of a new phenomenon in our community. So in a few weeks, we're going to be reinstituting our rituals. You'll get to see who our children are. When the pandemic hit, we have 4 rituals that we do throughout the year, each one kind of helping process the life cycle that human beings go through. We've got a birth ritual. We've got what used to be in old times surviving infant mortality ritual. Now we call it going to school ritual. And we've got a puberty ritual, like a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah in the Christian tradition, confirmation used to be, and then a leaving home ritual. And we do those as our children kind of cycle through. We took almost 3 years off because of the pandemic, and we're going to begin to reinstituting those with a catch-up ritual for all the kids who didn't make it during those years. So we'll do that on Palm Sunday. That'll be our first one. We're going to start there with those things, with the budget, with the intergenerational spaces that we put together, and then we're going to try and integrate those into our community life. And then after we do, we're going to assess. And we're going to ask ourselves the question, do we have a community-owned community? Does the community own a sense of responsibility to our children and to our teenagers? Maybe we'll end up doing more, but I suspect if we do those things, it will take us a long way to being a community-owned community. But keep in mind, even if we get the whole thing right, keep in mind, even if we make it very accessible and very here, now, small, doable, doing it is going to press up against a set of unseen, unarticulated, unspoken cultural sensibilities. We will be pushing into space where kids slow us down. We're pushing into space where kids are messier and noisier. And we're going to work as hard as we can to make it good for adults and for kids. But remember what I say all the time, just because a cultural value feels normal, feels true, does not make it a true enough truth, does not make it a valuable enough value. So when it gets messy, I want to encourage us to remember, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go long, go together. And also you can remember, just because I think it's cute, hey, Grandpa, I'm in the band at church, and we're pretty good. So indwelling divine, may we be a spiritual community that practices discernment well enough that we can see the cultural currents that impact us, and we can begin to stand against them when it's important and inform how we respond to those currents, drawing from ancient wisdom, but also drawing from deeper wisdom. Amen. All right, so for what are you thinking, we are going to just open the floor, but before we do that, again, get out your phones. We all give online now. You can point at the QR code there. You can thumb tight our website, commonthreadchurch.org/donate. Lots of options, lots of ways to give. Remember what I say all the time. What we do, and by the way, you've done this so well, is we give our time and we give our energy, we give our love, we give our dollars. The community then takes those resources, amplifies them, and gives them back to us in the form of a context, an environment in which we thrive. So, thank you for being a generous community. You go to the website, it's as easy as can be. I'm pretty confident we're going to be able to take care of the stuff that we need to do. You saw last month we went $9,000 in the hole, but that's not because our giving went down. That's because our expenses went up. Moving into this space has really kind of, it's costly. It's a costly process. So now in a minute, those of you online, we're going to open the floor and talk here in the room. We're going to do What Are You Thinking? By the way, what are you thinking, leaders? Yeah, I didn't send you the questions because there aren't any questions today. We're just opening the floor. So you may not know online that this is one of the most important things that we do, one of the most enjoyable things we do. So you might want to tune in if you'd like to, overcome the resistance, because who knows, somebody might be mean to you. I promise they won't. You go to the front page of our website, or you go to the YouTube notes, and there's a link right there. That'll take you to the Zoom, and the password to get into the Zoom is 1417. 1417. Let's dismiss the folks online. If you would, please put your hand on your heart, and let's remember as we go that we are, every one of us, carriers of the indwelling divine, which means love and joy and peace and patience and kindness are in us. The fruit of the Spirit is within us. And if you would extend your other hand to our city, let's look for opportunities to share what's already in us with the people that we live and work, go to school with, looking for opportunities to repair and heal our worlds. Amen. God bless you all. You are dismissed. The rest of us, we're not dismissed. What are you thinking? What's stirring up in your heart? I would like to